Okay.
Okay. So when we first talked to you a little bit about fractional sales management, what do you think made you want to step into that? Or what was the problem that you were trying to solve?
Well, the biggest problem that I think myself as a broker operator runs into is that you just don't have enough bandwidth. You don't have enough time in the day. And if you're focusing on one salesperson, that's one thing. But if you're trying to nurture and grow a team of salespeople, it becomes a lot more difficult. And so the ability to, um, I would say, hire out or farm out a fractional sales manager who not only has the same ideas and cultural thought process on how to close, but is specific to our market. This isn't someone who used to sell cars or widgets. Like these are people who know the property management game well. And so that makes the trust factor and the handover factor much easier.
So when you're looking for any property management company is looking for a sales manager, whether it be fractional or they're going to bring somebody in, you highlighted a couple things that were really important. One was that they were industry specific. Can you expand on that? Like, why is it important that your sales manager come from the industry and have that expertise, or how has it benefited you?
I'd like to say that we are industry specific. Like people don't know what it's like to be a property manager unless you've been a property manager. And I think there's some truth to that. I mean, I'm sure someone who sells widgets could come in, learn the rules of the road, and do well. Absolutely. But when you have a team that you're working with that already has that background in place and has done this on their own in the past, I think it's a force multiplier for our BDMs and our sales management team already. So, for instance, if you don't understand the verticals of the type of buckets we're trying to get prospects and leads, it doesn't help you to come in and start telling a BDM what they need to do to close more doors. But if you do understand the challenges that a property management company or a property manager goes through to get leads and get closings, then it makes it that much easier to train and help, facilitate a BDM to reach their potential.
Yeah. You also kind of mentioned in there that it had to be the right culture fit. It couldn't be like used car sales guy style, all that kind of stuff. So, in working with RentScale specifically, what is it that you think that we have a great culture fit, and how's that parallel to your culture?
Well, first and foremost, the players at RentScale, Jeremy, yourself, they've all been in the industry for a while. Ancillary, I knew Jeremy before he just said, like, hey, man, you got this going, you want to come on board. So that part helped. Like, nobody was unfamiliar with the industry, and that helped bring that, again, trust factor that we're talking about. And when it came to culture, RentScale's always been preaching something that aligns with our own message is that you get what you pay for, number one. And number two, there are several different ways to gain clients. And so when Golden West married up with RentScale, I was able to speak with you, with Reese, and with Jeremy and say, look, I don't want to spend tons of money on pay per click, or I don't want to be an APM warrior or a thumbtack warrior. I want to create a certain program that over time will generate reoccurring, repeated recommendation leads, prospects, and closings. And the fact that the people on the other side were like, yes, 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 let's absolutely do that. And then, of course, kicking and screaming brought their system to marry up with my system. Uh, no, but in jest, like the truth is, like we have the same alignment. Everybody at RentScale totally wanted to create a program like that, and so putting the finishing touches, getting in the weeds, that was very easy because the culture and understanding of how we want to do business, how we want to close prospects, there was already synergy there.
Mhm. Okay. Why wouldn't somebody just hire a sales manager, not rent scale, but a full-time in the company sales manager who maybe has experience in the industry or maybe has been a PM before? Why would you not hire that person over going with a fractional with rent scale?
Well, I think anybody who's been in the industry, and especially if they've worked with RentScale in the past, finding a BDM or business development manager in and of itself is super difficult. All right. It is sometimes putting a square peg in a round hole. It's very time consuming, not just, looking for hiring, onboarding, and then training to hopefully within 6 months, 3 to 6 months, get them to be successful. Now take somebody who's going to be integral in making sure your sales manager or BDM team is going to be successful. That player is also extremely difficult to find and probably extremely costly. So, I mean, when we start to talk about, six-figure salaries, especially with most PM companies in our space are, have like 400 to 800 units or 800 doors, that's a lot of money for someone who's actually not doing the closing, but facilitating the culture, the leadership, the training, the accountability. And so, from a cost effective standpoint, from a skill perspective, and from an overall understanding or background of our industry, it's just hard to find. Whereas RentScale provides that fractional viewpoint, where if you twist their arm enough, they'll actually be a little more than fractional. But in all reality, they provide a built-in component that can spend quality time with your BDMs while holding them accountable for much less money than a full-time, senior sales manager would cost.
Yeah. Hopefully this isn't too leading, or maybe I want it to be, but do you believe that RentScale's sales management has helped at all with retention of your BDMs and reduced turnover in I guess in the sales department overall?
I think that is a huge component. First and foremost, the portion of RentScale that helps build out a hiring, onboarding, and training platform is a huge proponent of acquiring and keeping quality talent. Okay. If you don't have a way to identify, hire, and onboard, and then train quality talent, they're not going to stay. The addition of a fractional sales manager or a fractional sales component, again, takes the bandwidth or the requirement to oversee that BDM away from maybe a director of ops or a broker owner to where that BDM has constant accountability and oversight. So they don't feel like I'm left alone on the island, go close or you don't eat. Go close or we let you go. Don't go close or you're the problem. They have someone constantly um, referencing the tools they have available, somebody they can go to for how to fix or how to overcome obstacles, and most importantly, someone help keeping rudder steers of accountability. And that, I believe, is what you need with a salesperson. Give them left and right lateral limits, give them the tools, and help them overcome objections or ruts so they can be successful. And that's what I lean on RentScale to provide. It is not for Reese to be there and babysit every single day. That's just not possible, nor is that, I think, effective. But it is for being able to check in, whether it be 15 to 20 minutes regularly throughout the week, as well as clear, concise accountability metrics, and somebody who knows the technology and platforms we're using, such as Lead Simple or CRM, that does drive that accountability piece for the BDM. That's what RentScale brings to the table. That, again, if you hire outside, that person's going to have to learn all that stuff. Or if you, broker owner, trying to do that, if you don't give that time and attention, that BDM may not do as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're also finding that BDM doesn't do as well because you don't have the time and attention, but that retention is a huge piece. They just feel like they are on an island. They feel like they're all by themselves where everybody else is focused in operations and nobody's there to like zero in on what they're doing and really help them. And retaining employees or losing employees costs you a lot of money. Retaining employees is a huge savings, especially in sales. I mean, you know what happens when you lose a salesperson. You got to start back over from square one. And so that retention is like so important. And that's something that we identified in sales management. So whether someone was going to sales manage themselves or hire a sales manager or have us fractionally manage the management and of those BDMs and the daily activities and what their progress plan was going to be, it seemed to be something that was really important. And hopefully is saving companies a lot of money along the way.
I'll
Um,
add in that it's also a sounding board, Jen. If I think there's an issue and I call you or I call Reese and I say, look, here's what I'm seeing. I get a different perspective and I get an ability to collaborate on like what approaches should we take to fix this? Are we actually seeing the truth? And how can we either rectify or part ways? And as you said, starting over is no fun, but now we're not held to some kind of fear like, are we making a rational decision?
Mhm.
Two people in the same space who see the playing field from maybe different angles, but see the same metrics and the same outcomes are able to get their heads together and go like, okay, well, let's try this, let's try that. And if it doesn't work, then we're able to make a sound decision on taking those next step and getting a new BDM. That's the huge. I have those calls with Reese, and I've gotten to the point where it's like, hey, we've got a good sound mechanism, and now I can nitpick, but I can openly say, like, I want this to be better, and I am nitpicking, but it's okay because this BDM, for example, is meeting the baseline. We're doing the thing. So now we can focus on what are the next steps to make them a true hunter, a true closer versus someone who is a good lead catcher and who can follow the protocols.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. Reese, what else do you have in what you're teaching or training or managing? Anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I would kind of touch on this. It's something Jason and I talk about when we connect. It's like, we ask the question of each other. It's like Jason will ask me, what can I do better that I'm not seeing? And then vice versa, I'm asking him, what do I need to work on with the team? But one thing I've noticed, and we'll kind of talk about is our your longest BDM that we've had in fractional sales management, how we've kind of moved past the basics and we're working on some higher level sales techniques, but also some personal development too, so that we can grow that person not only just to be a good BDM, but a good leader in your company in years to come. So I want to leave the floor to you to kind of talk about some of the things that we're doing and hopefully what we're graduating that individual into in years to come.
Well, I think that again, able to identify outcomes. Okay, we've met the threshold of outcomes. We have a certain amount of closings. Okay, then we're able to take that and go like, okay, what does this BDM do well? We double down on that. What does this BDM not do well? We come up with and we brainstorm on ways to make that better. One instance, for example, is BDM might be great in person and is great on process, but struggles on the phone and is talking too much or is giving away too much candy. So Reese gives us uh, his way to listen to a phone call, his little Reeseisms to help the BDM be able to be quiet a little bit, to answer questions with short objection overcoming, and then asking them another question. But again, we're able to collaborate and help a BDM become a better overall tactician, which leads to more closings, which is good for them and good for us. But more importantly, when we're not under that stress of like, did we make the right hire? We can get into the personal aspect. Like, how can we help support? So not only are they doing well on closing, but like, how's mama doing at home? How's the family coming along? Where do you see yourself in this coming year? Where do you see yourself as part of the business or for your own future? Like you cannot have those questions and that kind of give and take until you've met the threshold. And that's something that Reese and I have enjoyed very much with example, in this example, a senior BDM. Like, we've gotten past the basics. Now we're able to focus on things that make everybody better.
And I would even say like one competitive advantage, kind of going back to the cost factor, if you were going to hire a full-time internal sales manager, is what we're doing at RentScale is we're investing in ourselves too, getting that outside education, going to conferences. I'll be in San Antonio next week for the Outbound conference with Jeb Blunt. We get to take all that information and bring back to your BDMs. So it kind of, you're cutting the cost also by having that fractional, getting a different perspective out of it, but you're also getting some additional training that you may or may not had in the budget if you had a full-time sales manager versus fractional to send them to do all these things.
Some of our best techniques we or additional verticals we have gotten from our rent scale coaching staff. But let's make no mistake, like it does cost money to have a fractional sales manager. It's not free, it's not cheap. But if you weigh out the cost of a long-term program, and that's what we're trying to build here at Golden West. I'm not trying to just keep plugging in, 6 to 8 month BDMs to close some doors and then recycle again. And we're trying to build a sales culture. And we're trying to build a program that generates results over the long term. okay, that is about being a hunter and creating prospects versus catching them, then you need a partner who not only understands where we're coming from, but also adds that value. Sure, again, if we had five BDMs and we needed full-time attention, a huge staff, and it was better to bring someone in-house for double the cost, okay, we can explore that. But for right now, for the cost we pay to have a true partner who understands the industry and can help bring value to our and coach our current BDMs, I wouldn't ask for anything else. And again, make no illusion, I know that I cannot come down and spend that same bandwidth. So between bandwidth, coaching, and partnership, I think that we are getting a pretty effective bang for our buck program.
Reese, good?
On my end. One thing, so yeah, and you may have to edit this out, but one thing I've noticed kind of with our fractional sales management, there's a therapy aspect to it, right? Because they may talk to me a little bit differently than they're going to talk to the broker or owner of their company. So
Sure.
maybe they're letting their guard down. There's a little bit more vulnerability, but I do think there is an added edge to that they feel openly, and free because they're not working with me 8 hours, 9 hours a day. I'm not writing their paychecks necessarily, but it allows them to tell me really what their stucks are, what their opportunities or challenges are, and I can help them navigate that. Even when they come to me and they've like, I got to have a tough conversation with Jayson, we kind of get to frame that up and tell them how to have that conversation so that it's more meaningful versus they just go to Jayson and the message doesn't get across. So I don't know if therapy is the right word, but there's definitely a different type of relationship that I get to have with the BDMs versus what Jayson does. And then when we combine those, that's where we get the ultimate outcome.
I think as the broker owner, I get to go back to being a cheerleader versus the like Reese gets the stick and I can get the carrot. And that's so much more of an enjoyable role. Um, as well as like I can vent to Reese versus venting directly to the BDM. Like, hey man, their numbers are down. Reese, what are we not doing there? Here's what I'm seeing. And then A, it allows me to get that vent out. And B, that allows Reese to help refocus and reattack with the BDMs for accountability or for focus on what they're doing. At the end of the day, we'll be 100% honest. Like we have long-term BDMs and brand new BDMs in our on our team, and some are doing better than others. And it allows us to go back and say, like, what's this person doing that this person's not doing? And again, we want them all to be successful. So having a person like Reese or a fractional sales manager who can help navigate those waters, it's extremely important for me. I couldn't have achieved this success without someone in this role. And just on a personal note, it helps because Reese is the yin to my yang. Like we have two totally different personalities. And so teaming us up together versus if it was Jayson and Jen, we would be scorched earth. BDMs would be crying on a weekly basis. They wouldn't be able to hang. But when they have the teddy bear, okay, and Napoleon together, like we can really move the needle, and it shows. Again, Tam is someone who I use as an example of like, dude, he has a certain personality to him that he does need to be talked to and approached a certain way. But I feel like Reese and I have tag teamed that to the way like we're getting the most out of him, and he's a happy camper, and now we're happy campers. It's like, hey man, this is cool. And then we have other BDMs that we're trying to figure out other approaches to, but you can't do that if like as a broker owner, like it's tough. Some people can. I know that I cannot. And B, like about Jen, you know how hard it was to hire BDMs? Like imagine us hiring a sales manager, another Megan. Like holy shit! Like it's just very difficult. I think there's a phrase in this industry that resonates. The best people in this industry own their own company. So like, oh, I'm looking for the best salesperson ever. Oh yeah, they own a property management company. They do. I'm
Yeah.
looking for the best ops person ever. Great. They own their company. And the rest of them are I'm in the $1 million club. The rest of them are in the, like director of ops meeting and or the broker owner meetings at Lead Simple or Profit Coach or whatever. Like that's just the truth. We are not IBM where like, hey, I'll move to Google or I'll move to Computer Associates or Oracle. Like it's not like that. Talent is not everywhere. And so to be able to find guys like yourself or guys like yourself that have the talent and know the industry, and we're not taking up all your bandwidth, I think that's huge. So,
And it allows us, for RentScale and our property management companies to develop talent. I think that's one thing that's often underlooked is there's people out there, but they just need the TLC to get them to where they need to be. And that's what we want to do together with our
Yeah.
owners is take somebody that maybe doesn't have that experience and doesn't know the how-tos and the professional culture and the personal and how to mix all that. But when we combine all of that together, we can actually grow these individuals so that they stay at your company for a longer time. And like you said, the long haul, they're going to perform well if they stay in these types of programs and get all of that support from you as well as RentScale.
I think a package of like a rent scale BDM finder and then a like fractional sales management for 6 months is a huge thing for you guys because what we found was okay, we could pull the trigger on a BDM, okay, and then we built out a pretty good training program so we could get them from 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. Like they can handle an APM call and they could go to Scale Club and they could do this, but like getting them to be long term successful without being able to be in the week is very difficult. So at least getting them going to get to 90 days and then 6 months, it tells you a lot of what you got. Now, Cam, within 6 months, we're like, okay, we got a player. Let's talk about Casey. Like, hey, man, we feel good about him, but like the results aren't there. So we're still tinkering behind the scenes. If I didn't have a sales manager, like I would have had to cut him a while ago because I don't have the bandwidth for anything other than like, bro, you're just not closing. I got to let you go. Okay.
Yeah. I I think one of the best things you said, I mean, you said a lot, you have a lot of gold in here, so thank you. But I think one of the best things you said that I reflected on that didn't quite hit me until you said it was you got to kind of sit back and be their cheerleader. So you were not in the office like hounding them on what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? You're just like, hey, you got this. And you and Reese kind of tag team whether it's good guy, bad guy, whatever it is that you do. I just think it's really cool that you didn't have to get into those weeds and you got to sit back and just cheer them on, and that's who they get to see you as. And we can bring down the hammer. We can be like, what's your activity? And we can be the ones like, we're not going to micromanage anybody, but we can be the ones that are paying more attention to that kind of activity. And I don't think it hit me until you said that, which is really cool. Like that's a really cool feature for sure.
It's even more for my personality because being the hammer is that's what I naturally do. And Reese is, I want to see the day that Reese is the hammer. I want that on camera so I can be like, there it is.
You
Because
and
that's
me
just not
both.
happening, Reese. So, but again, like when I have my Friday meetings, uh, when we get together, it's look, everybody raised their hand to go to what is it, scale
Sales
development. Everybody raised their
mastery.
hand. Like everybody wants to go to that. Like when I get on my Friday meetings, like everybody's in a round table, everybody's there, everybody's chirping. Like I sense the anxiousness when you got maybe a BDM who's got like, hey, I got one closing this month, or I got, I've got four, versus like another person who's got like, hey, I got nine and I'm trying to, you know what I mean? I sense it, but I get to play the role of like, hey, what are we doing? How are we doing? What can I help? What can I do? And in my annual review with Cam, I was like, what can I do more? He's like, honestly, like this is the most support that I don't need anything. Like I'm getting support. And he sees other BDMs in our area he sees what they do and he sees like what support they have. And he's like, dude, I got it good here. And that's good. I love to see that. And I'd love to see him get to, an average of 14, 15 closings a month. And for the ones that aren't doing well, I'm trying to figure out with Reese, like, how can we, is it motivation or is it just, did we hire the wrong person? And no matter what our program is, we got to start over. Now, we'll be better the next time around,
Sure.
but is this not the right thing? And yeah, I mean, but what I don't have to do, circling back, I don't have to ever yell and scream or jump up and down at any of these people. And I never have to worry about accountability stuff because I have paid for the ability to have a senior person that I trust actually doing this stuff. And he allows me to email him like once or every other week and be like, did you hear this fucking call? Or these people don't have anything. And then we get on a call. I don't think we do more than twice a month, and we kind of talk it through. We have our 30 minutes to an hour, and then we go from there. And that's the way it should be. Yeah, I can't wait to have two of these people hitting that 8 to 10, and then 10 to 12. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I'm gonna stop